Welcome to the Store Builders Podcast, the place where we talk to industry experts and successful store owners about what it takes to build a thriving e-commerce business. Every episode, we deliver the raw, unfiltered recommendations that will catapult your store to new heights. Ready to get serious about expanding your e-commerce empire? Well, then let's get to work.
I'm your host, Ryan Cowden, and this week we're joined once again by Chris Lemma. In this episode of the Store Builders Podcast, Chris and I discuss e-commerce segmentation and the impact it can have on your online business. If you have ever purchased something online and shared your email address with the retailer, you have probably also had the experience of being added to their email list. What soon follows is a constant stream of emails from the company with little relevance to you or your purchase. These emails often lead to nothing more than deciding to unsubscribe from that list. But there is a better way. Have you ever had the experience of receiving timely, relevant emails from a company after a purchase? You may notice that these messages occur on important anniversaries, significant dates, or contain details strictly related to you and your purchase. If you've ever received these emails, you've probably been placed in a special customer segment by that company. Like most great business ideas, segmentation is a win for the consumer and the retailer. On today's episode, you'll hear the definition of e-commerce segmentation. E-commerce segmentation places your shoppers into different groups, which allows you to shape messages that are relevant to their interest in your brand. Next, we'll talk about why you should consider e-commerce segmentation. Creating these segments helps you to better understand the customers you have and creates more meaningful communication with those groups. Then, we'll share some of the most useful segments to apply to your customers. These can include at-risk shoppers, frequent shoppers, and high-end clients. And finally, we'll talk about how to use Glue to assist you in your segmentation efforts. Glue is a highly useful platform that you can integrate into your web store to gather and analyze data on your customers. If you're looking for more effective ways to follow up with your customers after they make purchases from you, then this is one episode you won't want to miss. There's a lot of actionable advice in this episode, so grab something to write with because you're going to want to take notes. As always, I'll be back on the other side to wrap up any loose ends. So without any further ado, here's my conversation with Chris Lemma. All right, Chris, welcome back to the show. It's great to see you again.
It's good to see you, Ryan.
We're talking about segmentation today and ways you can do that with your website. Exciting topic. Let's just start from the beginning. What is customer segmentation?
So the easiest way to explain it, right, is to tell you a story.
Okay.
I got married at a hotel in Monterey, California, in Northern California. I got married at this really nice hotel, and or we got married in the garden outside of it. But there's this great hotel there, and we stay there. We go often, and then over a period of time, we hadn't gone, and they sent me an email. It was one of those that was, uniquely crafted, pulled some different data. It was clear that it was to me specifically, but a computer had done it. It wasn't a handwritten note, right? But they pulled it together and they sent me this email, and they sent me a special deal. And they did it right around our anniversary and whatever else. And so we went, right? We went back. We booked a weekend and we went back. And then, right, every anniversary or every, a month or two before our anniversary, we got a similar email, right? And it became very clear that they had put me into a group of people that was like, give him a nominal deal, not a massive deal, remind him of the significance of this place and send it at the right time. And I will get, and there's a good chance he will sign up, right? And the point of that, right? The point of that story is to understand that when we put people in groups that work the same, that interact the same, that take the same kind of decisions or at least result in the same kind of results, when we put them in that group, we can shape a message so that we don't have to write a hand custom message to each one. So I may be in a group that says fond memories, right? You could imagine, right? Anniversaries, birthdays, holidays, fond memories, and then mine happens to be, we got married in July. So send it to him in May, right? But someone else could still be in that group and have a completely different anniversary or completely different birthday. The point is, if we all react to the messaging in the same way, then we are functioning the same way. Then we can be considered a group that acts the same way. And that is a segment. So the whole point of segmentation isn't grouping people or creating categories just for the sake of it. It's so that you can create messaging, you can create triggers that you know are reliably consistent to generate results because that group is like-minded, right?
Okay.
Now, if you were talking to someone else who was really just into savings, right? I have another friend of mine who will go anywhere, right? Will go anywhere, buy almost anything if the discount is dramatic, right? Like the only stories you hear are like, oh, you know what? We went to Palm Springs for the weekend. Oh, what took you to Palm Springs? It was like 90% off.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, but wasn't it 112 degrees? And they're like, yeah, it's their down season, but so what? Because we had the pool to ourselves and this, that. And you're like, oh, okay. But if you know that that person and many people like them are going to interact with a 90% deal, right? 90% off deal, they're a segment and you can chase them with a different targeted message. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What was it like for you as a customer to realize that you'd been segmented? Was that a good feeling?
So
or was that...
it took a second, right? Like the first time you're like, oh, that's just brilliant, right? Like that's a great idea. And then the next year you're like, I think they've put us in a group. I think they've tied it to our anniversary, right? And the third year you're like, okay, I'm in a group, which also was fine. I wasn't upset about it. I was like, okay, well, this year we're not going to do it because at some point my wife won't think it's very romantic if we go there every single year.
Right.
But wait a couple years, then I get it, and you go, oh yeah, okay, let's do it again, right? Other segments, other segments you're in, you just know, right? Like when Amazon was first created, right? I mean, like we're talking years and years and years, decades ago. Amazon was first created. I was buying a book, I don't know, every few days. I was reading a book every few days, right? So I was buying books all the time. I literally got no coupon, right? Nobody at Amazon sent me a coupon. But all the people I worked with would get these coupons, right? Come try us out. Come try this. Come try this. And I remember going, hey, I'm spending all the money with them. Why aren't they sending me a coupon? And my buddy sitting next to me goes, I think you just answered your own question, right? Like you're already spending. You don't need to be in that group that they're going to chase down. You're just going to keep spending anyway. And you go, yeah, you're right. There are, I have a fondness for and a very deep interest in high-end headphones, right? To the point that now if any pair of headphones that's remotely interesting is announced anywhere in the world, I have friends who are texting me links, right? Which is really bad for my bank account.
Yeah.
But there are a couple of those vendors who have me clearly on the list.
Yeah.
And those are the ones where I'm like, you don't have to do that. Like I would find you anyway, but they're like, no, we want to make sure when you can pre-order, not when you can order them in general. And you're like, okay.
Right. Well, that seems to be another advantage of segmenting your audience is kind of you're getting people in on you kind of feel like you're in a special club if you're in a certain segment, correct?
Yes, if you're in the segment that I mean, there's so many segments, right? Like if you're in the segment that is like high spend or VIP or like so if you're buying the most expensive products at a store, or if you are spending the most amount of money at a store, or if you are if you have a long history of consistent spend, even if it's not a massive amount, and then though in a given year it's just okay, but if you've done that every year for years, right? Those segments are great to be in. If you get a coupon all the time because they're like, this person can only be triggered with a coupon, maybe you feel well. I think my coupon friends are like, this is awesome. So
right.
But what the whole point of it is, there's a bunch of pitches or emails that you're not getting, right, when you're in a segment. So years ago, right, we started building some technology. We didn't end up taking it out into a new company. We built some technology for some hotel. And one of the problems with a hotel is that you don't always go to the hotel for the same reason, right? Like you might go to a hotel and be like, I have to be here for a funeral. So imagine you go to the check-in and you put your information in and you're like, okay, I'm checked in, I'm here. And, you give them your email, you give them your phone number or whatever. And the following year, they're like, let's bring you back. It's been a while. We've missed you. And you're like,
it's been exactly 1 year.
You just reminded me of my grandmother's passing, right?
Yeah.
Like This
Right.
is horrible.
Yeah.
And when we were talking to those hotels, which is now, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, Hilton, right, would say, we spend at the time, a god awful amount on postcards and outbound mailers that are all trying to bring people back. We get less than 1% return, and it's a waste of money, but it's what we got. Now, of course, the web has changed that, and now they can spend on ads, digital ads, and they can retarget. And I mean, there's a lot that has shifted, but the truth is, you still don't want to get put into a generic segment with a generic, email
Right.
that says, "Come back, we've missed you," and you're like, "That's not appropriate," right? For
Right.
whatever reason. So the segmentation thing is so critical, especially in the world of e-commerce, right? And especially when we're talking to store builders who normally think of their world as, I build a website and I get out, right? And you go, wait, like, you need to be thinking about how to equip store owners with this segmentation stuff so that they can grow their store. And if you do it right, then they will love you forever, because their customers love them, because they're not getting the generic emails, they're getting very targeted messages.
Okay. So in order to put your customers in the right segments, you have to collect some data on them or some information about why they're purchasing or what it's for, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it is all about collecting that data. You need to group them on a factor, right? Whatever the factor is, you need to group them on some sort of factor. And so then the question is, okay, what's the factor, right?
Right.
And the ones, think some of the things we know right off the bat, right? People who abandon their cart, you can put them in a group and just go, okay, this is transactional in nature. You just abandon the cart. What can we do to follow up with you? But it's harder work, right? To do something like who's an at-risk customer, right? And you can do at-risk customer stuff in different ways. But for example, imagine if you took all of the people in your store who had made more than one purchase, right? Just take all of them over all the years that your store has been in business. You take them all. And then you say, okay, for anyone who has more than one order, so they have 2, 3, 4 orders, I want you to take the delta between the first order and the second and the third and the fourth, et cetera, right? So take what that number is, right? So it might have been 15 days between it, and then 35 days, and then 90 days, and then 30 days, and 20 days. And you take all those bits of data for the customer, and then for all the rest of the customers, and then you average it out. And if you did that math, right, you would come back to, okay, the average distance between purchases on a repeat purchase buyer is 47 days, right? I don't know. I'm making that up because it's different for every store.
Right.
But if you had that, if you knew that there's the risk of them never coming back after 47 days, right? Then your email strategy would change dramatically, right? Because you wouldn't go, I'm going to send them an email, the moment they get on my list, I'm going to send them an email 5 days later, and then 10 days later, and then 25 days later, and then 20, and then 30 days later, and then 35 days later. And then, because you're treating them like everyone is the same. When in fact, right after I buy something, depending on the thing, that may be the time I'm least interested in hearing from you or buying from you, right? If I just bought, I don't know, if I went to a men's store and I just bought a wallet, I'm not interested in another wallet, right? And if that's the majority of what you sell, sending me emails, right, doesn't do anything. And your lapse point may be like, I don't know, 250 days, right? Like on average, people make another purchase, but they come in like almost a year later, and you're like, okay, if that's where that ends, right? I don't need to email them right after they make a purchase. I might wait a month or two, and then another 2 months. But man, when I get close to that point when they're going to fall off and potentially be at risk, that's when I throw an email every 2 weeks, and I push a 4 email sequence right before they fall off that edge, and I may never get them back again. Right.
Right.
But it takes data to know what's the average distance between repeat purchases across all my customers across all the years, and what does that mean for me in terms of my email strategy. Now, someone else may say, that's just too much work. What I'm going to do is just presume that people will not buy from me if they haven't bought in 9 months. Just pick a number. And then you just go show me all the people who have bought within 9 months, take them off the list. All the people that haven't bought in over 9 months, they're at risk. Let me check, right? Or if they haven't bought in over 2 years, they're like, put them in another category, right? They're the win backs, right? Like I got to do something to get you to come back. When I first moved to San Diego, which was, I don't know, like 9 years ago, we signed up for a local gym and we did it for a year and then we were done. I get emails from them like nonstop. And it's now been 8 years of not being a member. At some point, those emails should change, right? It shouldn't just be, hey, we want you back. Hey, we missed you on a monthly rotation, right? I mean, that's just noise and I throw it away. It ought to be, okay, who hasn't been back to the gym or at least our gym in more than 5 years? I ought to change the nature of that email, right? I ought to change the deal, change the whatever, right? So at risk is one of those segments, but how you get to who goes in the list, right, differs depending on how much work you want to do or what kind of technology you're using to get there.
Right. So you've got the at-risk segment. You've got time between purchase. You've got repeat buyers. Are there any other segments that you're kind of looking for when you're segmenting your customers?
Oh, there's a ton. And to be clear, right, the at-risk segment is the one that holds the data about repeat purchases and lapse times and all that. It's still one segment, which is the at-risk one. But there are tons of other segments, right? So for example, what about the person who buys from you with some level of regularity, but who always has a lower, it's low order value or a lower price shopping cart, right? So my wife is this person at Target, right? They don't, like, if they didn't have data scientists, they would never know how special she is. She doesn't spend more than $150 per visit. But there was a period of time where she was going every other day. So you don't notice, right? Because it's $100 here, $100 there. I get to my account, right, at the end of the month, and I'm like, what did we spend $2,000 at Target for? And she's like, no, we didn't. Are you sure? And I'm like, you went 17 times this month. Like, what? Like it's just insane. And you go, oh yeah, those are people who are making small purchases, but they're coming a lot. And you go, how do I shift them to get to spend more, right? How do I get them to buy more stuff? Now, it may be that I want them to buy more things, or it may be that they buy it more consistently, right? More regularly. So someone who is buying and they come, Costco makes, Costco is one of those big warehouse dynamics, right? And they make a lot of their money on the fact that people buy certain kinds of products in bulk, right? So toilet paper is one of those, right? And if you interview 100 people that have a Costco account and you go, what is the thing that keeps your Costco account going, right? A ridiculous number of them will tell you it's where we buy the toilet paper, because a family of 5. I mean, I don't want to go to the grocery store every other day, right? And you go, okay, I get it. So what does Amazon do, right? A couple of years ago, Amazon's like, well, if the only reason people are keeping their Costco card is because they get the toilet paper there, why don't we create a subscription service that lets people buy a normal size amount of toilet paper and we just send it to them with regularity, right? That's if you can target a person who has a low order volume, but turn it into a subscription so that they can get it regularly, right? You now have increased the value of that customer, the lifetime value of that customer, right? So sometimes it's throw in an extras, right? Upsells, cross sells, ways to make their cart worth more. And you can do that a lot of different ways, right? Trigger a coupon, what have you. Yeah. But as a store builder, if you can sit and talk with your customer and talk through, well, are some of these products subscription oriented? Would they be subscription oriented? Could they be subscription oriented? Because that will drive this segment, will give them offers and drive their regularity higher. And that drives your total value of that customer up.
Right.
right? So you go, oh yeah, that's a good, like do we know who those, low order, average order volume or value, do we know who those are? And you go, yeah, well, we can grab that and understand, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Obviously, people who buy in the 10% of the most expensive products, right? Take all your products, rank them by price, take the top most expensive stuff, and get who buys those.
Mm.
Man, if you have a list of those special customers who are always buying your most expensive stuff, when you introduce a new expensive thing to your store, why wouldn't you email them first? Like, hey, Chris, know that you love the headphones. We have the new Bose 700s, or 7,700s. I think 700s. We have the new Bose 700s that are coming out. You're on our special list. Do you want to pre-order? Yeah,
Yeah.
I do. Right? Because you know I'm the guy that buys. Right. And if someone else has a high-end product and they're like, hey, you've bought from our store over and over and you're buying the most expensive stuff, why wouldn't I send you a deal? Like, hey, these are going to go on sale on Thursday, right? They're going to be made available on Thursday. But for our VIP customers, right, we want to let you buy them from now until Thursday, right? Imagine if you're selling a garment, right? A t-shirt, a sweatshirt, a hoodie, a something.
Mm-hmm.
If I wait to when everybody else gets to buy, right, as a customer, if I wait until then, there's a chance when I log in and when I go to the store that they've run out of my size. Imagine being the person who's like, I have all the money to buy this sweatshirt. There is no question. It doesn't matter if it's a ridiculously priced sweatshirt because I can buy $100 sweatshirt. I'm ready to buy it. I want it. I love your brand. I'm ready to go. Come on. And then you get there and they're like, we don't have we ran out. And you're like, you ran out because you sold to some Joe who has barely ever bought from you. Why would you let that happen? And the great stores are like, we didn't, right? We got you got your segment. We put you in that list. We knew you were ready. And before we launched it, we sent you an email saying, hey, because you're our VIP, right? Either because you've bought, it could be that you buy the most expensive stuff. It could be that you just spent the most at their store in the last year, right? Mm-hmm. You can put them in that group and you go, okay, you're one of our top spenders or big spenders or highest spenders. And you go, great. I'm going to send a note to that guy saying, just in case you want a sweatshirt going on Thursday, but for you, because you're in this group, we want you to have access early, right? And so we've put it over here. You need this password to get in. Ticketmaster does this with tickets all the time, right? You just go, hey, if you've spent with Amex and you have a certain kind of card, put in this code, you'll get early access to buy tickets so that you're sitting front row of whatever concert you want to go to, whereas other people wait and then they get to, okay, the tickets are available for Elton John. And you're like, yeah, but I'm in the back row. And you're like, well, sorry, we had other people who were VIPs, right? So segmentation is about, as a store builder, you're thinking about, am I collecting the data? Am I sorting the data? Am I putting people in the right list? Am I integrating that list with email systems in order for people to send out email? Am I updating that list? Because just because they were previously a big spender doesn't mean they continue to be. So am I refreshing that set of lists and updating them in my mail system, wherever I'm using, right? MailChimp or ConvertKit or Klaviyo or whatever. And then, you go, okay, how do I collect this data, right? In the midst of that, we're also talking to store owners about strategies, right? Like turn this into a subscription product or make sure that you have an ability from the store's perspective to release products before they go in public, right? So privatized area, protected password, like there are all sorts of store builder features they have to create to work with the strategy on this segmentation. But that's why store builder needs to know it, right? Because when they can know it, they can pass on these ideas to a store owner who goes, I do want that. Let's add that to the project and build it out so that I can have these features, right?
Right.
So that's why store builders need to know segmentation as well as store owners, because store owners will say, yeah, I know that segmentation is important. I know it's good. I just what segments? What segments should I have? And what should I do with them when I have them in this, in that list? And you go, okay, let me walk you through why this is so important and what we can do to make this work really well. Right. And that's when you start introducing technology. right?
Right.
Tools that the store builder can say, listen, yes, I can build you the private area, and yes, I can build you the subscription piece. On the data and analytics side, I want to introduce a package or a product or a SaaS or a something
Sure.
to, to help you move this forward.
Right. We're almost out of time, but I didn't want to leave before I let you mention Glue in particular, because that's something that you use specifically for that purpose.
So Glue is that SaaS and app product, right? Glue is the data mart of all data marts. Glue is the platform for reporting for e-commerce, whether you're with WooCommerce or Shopify or anybody else. Glue plugs in, pulls the data out, builds all the different ways to slice and dice that data, and in there generates 24 different segments automatically for you. So the people who only purchase with coupons, therefore, you can just go look at, those are value shoppers. You'll have a list of them, and it'll integrate into your mail system and push that list over. First-time buyers, second-time buyers, repeat buyers, high average order value, low average order value, big spenders, VIPs. It creates the full list of default segments, right? 24 default segments. And then you can do more things, right? Mm-hmm. You can go in and create custom segments based on purchase history or what kind of products they bought or whatever else, right? Where they live, right? You would never want to sell a promotion to a super heavy sweatshirt to someone in Southern California, right? You're like, it never gets cold enough to wear this sweatshirt, right? So you can adjust by region and other things, right? So Glue is normally one of those things that if you're a little starting store, you don't do, right? You're not ready to use. It's for more serious stores. Of course, at LiquidWeb, we include it in all our $250 a month WooCommerce plans and above, right? Mm-hmm. And normally it'll cost you like $299 or $399 a month, right? Think about it, $399 a month for that SaaS, but then you get it included when you buy our $250 a month hosting plan, right? With all the WooCommerce stuff and additional plugins. Yeah. But even if I wasn't bundling Glue with WooCommerce there, right? I would tell every single store builder to check it out, and I would tell every store owner they needed it, which is why we did the deal. Because I'm like, I think every store owner who's running a store, and every store builder who's building stores should be looking at Glue. And Glue is GLEW.io as opposed to the way you normally think of the word glue.
Okay, cool. All right, Chris, this was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Take care, everybody.
Thanks. All right, folks, there you have it. That wraps up my conversation with Chris Lemma. He shared a ton of valuable insights and advice today on how e-commerce segmentation can transform your online store. We also shared some tools and resources, which will all be linked up in the show notes. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. Please consider subscribing, sharing with a friend, or leaving us a review in your favorite podcast directory. Until next time, best of luck in all that you do, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Store Builders Podcast.